A young girl with a fragile frame, wearing faded and patched clothing, sat hunched on the edge of a busy Los Angeles street, clutching a small handwritten sign. Her tired eyes scanned the crowd, but most people passed her by without a glance, too preoccupied to notice. She looked like just another homeless child to the strangers rushing to their destinations. When Keanu Reeves emerged from the upscale restaurant, he paused. Something about the girl caught his attention, tugging at his heart. He couldn't have imagined that behind her weary expression lay a secret so profound it would leave him speechless. What happened that night would not only transform her life, but deeply impact his own as well. Before diving into this incredible story, let us know where you're tuning in from. And if you're a fan of inspiring tales like this, hit subscribe. There's another touching story coming your way tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. The night in Los Angeles shimmered with a vibrant beauty. The rain-slick streets mirrored the glow of streetlights, neon signs, and the grandeur of the city's nightlife. Alongside bustling restaurants and glamorous storefronts, the air was filled with faint echoes of laughter and the gentle hum of conversations spilling from within. Among these upscale venues was a hotspot for the city's elite, buzzing with activity as people mingled and celebrated. Keanu Reeves stepped out into the crisp night air, his relaxed presence a contrast to the lively energy around him. Lost in thought, he seemed to reflect on the evening's dinner and meaningful conversations. But then, something made him stop. Barely noticeable to the fast-moving crowd was a young girl sitting quietly on the sidewalk. She couldn't have been older than 12 or 13. Seated on a frayed blanket, her worn clothes hinted at a life filled with hardships. In her small hands, she held a handwritten sign, her eyes darting between the crowd and the ground in front of her. A mix of hope and despair flickered across her face as people rushed past, refusing to acknowledge her existence. Keanu hesitated, struck by how invisible she seemed to everyone else. Memories of his own struggles surfaced, fueling an instinctive compassion within him. Taking a deep breath, he stepped toward her and crouched down to meet her gaze. "Are you okay?" he asked gently, his voice low and calm. The girl's wide eyes met his, surprise evident on her face. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper, trembling with uncertainty. I just need help. It's urgent." Keanu studied her carefully, sensing a weight in her words that he couldn't ignore. There was an air about her that Keanu couldn't quite define, a mix of fear and unwavering determination. Taking a steady breath, he tried again. "What do you need the money for?" The girl avoided his gaze, staring into the distance, unwilling to open up. Her silence only deepened his curiosity. Keanu observed her hesitation, sensing she was struggling to find the right words. He didn't want to push her, yet something stopped him from walking away. Despite the crowd bustling past them, their little corner felt disconnected, like its own quiet world. "If it's really urgent, maybe I can help," he said gently, his voice steady and kind. For a fleeting moment she glanced at him before her eyes fell again. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely audible. "It's not for me," she murmured, "but I don't know if I should tell you." Keanu felt the situation was far more complex than it seemed. He noticed her trembling, whether from the cold or nerves, he couldn't tell. Feeling an unexpected sense of responsibility, he tried another angle. "Have you eaten yet?" he asked. She hesitated, then shook her head. "Come on," he said, pointing to a small cafe across the street. "Let's grab something warm. It's too cold out here." She looked around as though weighing the risks. After a moment of indecision, she stood slowly, grabbing a worn sign and a small backpack from beside her. Inside the cafe, Keanu chose a quiet corner table. A waitress arrived with menus, and he ordered sandwiches and hot drinks for them both. As they waited, Keanu gently broke the silence. "Did you ask anyone else for help today?" The girl sighed, fiddling with her backpack strap. "Nobody stops. They act like I don't even exist," she said, her voice tinged with frustration and hurt. Keanu nodded, understanding the depth of her words. The silence was soon interrupted by the waitress bringing their order. The girl wrapped her hands tightly around the warm cup, soaking in its heat. After a few minutes, Keanu tried again. "Now that you're a bit more comfortable, can you tell me why you need help?" She hesitated, but finally spoke, her voice steady yet cryptic. "I just need to save someone before it's too late." Her words only added to the mystery, leaving Keanu even more determined to uncover the truth. As the cafe remained quiet, except for the occasional clatter of dishes, Keanu studied the girl. There was something about her, a mix of vulnerability and strength, that stirred his concern and curiosity. Taking a different approach, he decided to share a part of himself. "You know, when I was a kid, life wasn't easy for me either," he began, his tone thoughtful. "I lost my dad young, and my mom had to work non-stop. I felt alone most of the time. But I learned that even in the hardest moments, there's always a way forward." Her hand froze on her cup, and she looked up, her expression a mix of surprise and uncertainty. Clearly, she hadn't expected such honesty. After a pause, her lips trembled as she finally spoke. "I lost my parents too," she said quietly. Keanu leaned in slightly, encouraging her to continue. He could see how much it cost her to say those words. "In a car crash," she added, her voice shaking. "I was waiting for them at school. They promised to pick me up early that day, but they never showed." Her words hung heavily in the air, and Keanu felt the weight of her pain as though it were his own. He understood deeply that no child should endure such heartbreak. "I'm so sorry," he said, his voice filled with genuine empathy. "That must have been incredibly hard." The girl inhaled sharply, trying to keep her emotions in check, but tears escaped, trailing down her cheeks. She shielded her face with her hands, her body shuddering softly with sobs. Keanu sat quietly, giving her the time she needed. Reaching out, he offered his hand, gentle, unassuming, a silent gesture to remind her she wasn't alone. "My mom, she was amazing," she said through her tears, her voice breaking. "She could take the simplest thing and make it special. And my dad, he had this way of making you feel like the most important person alive. I miss them so much." Keanu gave her hand a light, reassuring squeeze, his presence steady and kind. "They sound like wonderful people," he said softly, "and I'm sure they'd be so proud of the strength you've shown." The girl smiled faintly through her tears, though her expression quickly turned somber again. "I live with my uncle now," she confessed, her tone heavy. "He doesn't really like me. I think he only took me in because he felt obligated. It's not the same. Nothing is." She paused, clenching her fists tightly. "All I have left of them is what they taught me. And a kitten they gave me before they passed. He's the only thing that still connects me to them. I promised myself I'd protect him no matter what." "Where is he now?" Keanu asked, his voice calm and understanding. The girl glanced away, wiping her tears with the napkin he had handed her. I can't tell you yet." Her words about the kitten drew Keanu in further, but her hesitation left a veil of mystery over her story. The bustling Los Angeles night wore on, and the cafe began to quiet. Keanu observed her closely. Though she seemed more at ease, her reluctance to share fully was palpable. He knew trust couldn't be rushed, but he was determined to support her. You know, he said gently, a warm smile softening his features, caring for something we love often gives us a reason to keep going. It sounds like this kitten means a lot to you. She nodded slowly, gripping the strap of her backpack as if grounding herself. After a long silence, she finally spoke again. "His name is Toby," she said with a faint, bittersweet smile. "He was just a tiny kitten when my parents gave him to me. Mum called him our little miracle. He showed up on our doorstep one cold night on my birthday." She stopped for a moment, her eyes glistening with a mix of grief and fondness. "After they were gone, he became everything to me. He was there when I cried, when I couldn't sleep. He's the only thing that makes me feel like my parents are still close." Keanu nodded, sensing the depth of her connection. "And what happened to Toby?" he asked gently. Her face fell, the pain resurfacing. "My uncle said we couldn't keep him," she whispered. "He said having me in the house was hard enough, and a cat was just too much." Her voice wavered. "He wanted to get rid of him." Keanu frowned, the protective instinct stirring within him. "Is that why you left?" She nodded, tears spilling over again. "He doesn't understand," she said, her voice breaking. "Toby is all I have left of my parents. I couldn't let that happen." Keanu took a deep breath, processing her words. This young girl was carrying a weight far beyond what any child should bear. "And now?" he asked gently. "Where is Toby?" She hesitated, uncertainty lacing her voice as she responded. "I hid him somewhere safe," she started, her voice trembling. She paused, swallowing hard. "But he's sick, and I don't know what to do. He stopped eating and barely moves. That's why I need money. He needs help, but I can't afford it." Her eyes lifted to meet Keanu's, shifting from sorrow to a steely resolve. "My mum was a veterinarian," she continued, her tone steadier now. "She always said to pay attention to the signs because animals can't tell us what's wrong. Toby's weak, skinny, and he's been throwing up. I think he's swallowed something like plastic or string. My mom used to call it an obstruction. She treated a cat like this once." Keanu couldn't help but admire how much she had learned from her mother, even at her age. "You seem to understand a lot about what's happening," Keanu said, impressed. "That's incredible." "It's not enough," she replied, frustration creeping into her voice. "I don't have the medicine or tools my mum used, and if I don't act fast, he might not make it." Keanu placed a reassuring hand over hers. "We'll find Toby and get him the help he needs. You're not alone in this." Her eyes welled with a mix of doubt and hope. "You'd really do that?" she whispered, almost unable to believe it. Keanu smiled gently. "Yes, but you need to trust me. We'll do this together." As the girl shared her connection to her past through her mother, Keanu vowed to take on the responsibility of saving Toby, setting the stage for an urgent mission. Wrapping her arms around herself, she seemed to brace against the weight of her words. "I did everything my mom taught me, but it's not enough. I don't know what else to do." She stopped walking, staring at the ground. "If she were here, she'd know. I miss her so much." Keanu stopped beside her, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. "It's okay to miss her," he said softly, his words steadying her. "But you're doing something incredibly brave. Now that we're in this together, we'll do everything we can for Toby." She glanced at him, and a flicker of gratitude lit her eyes. "He's all I have left of them," she said quietly. "I can't lose him too." Keanu nodded firmly. "You won't. We'll get through this." They reached an alley where the girl began shifting boxes with practiced precision. She uncovered a folded blanket, revealing a small space tucked between the walls. From it, She pulled a basket where Toby lay curled up, his tiny body frail and motionless. A faint meow escaped his lips as he sensed her touch. "Toby?" she whispered, stroking his head gently. Keanu knelt beside her, observing the kitten's fragile state. Toby barely responded, his weakness evident. "He's really weak," Keanu said. "We need to get him to a vet right now." The girl hesitated. "I don't have the money," she admitted. "Don't worry about that," Keanu assured her. "I'll handle it. What matters is getting him help." Carefully, he lifted Toby, cradling him as though the kitten was the most precious thing in the world. The girl stayed close as they hurried to find a taxi. At the clinic, a warm receptionist greeted them, and Keanu quickly explained Toby's condition. The kitten was rushed to an exam room while they waited in the lobby. Time seemed to crawl, and the girl fidgeted, her gaze fixed on the door. Finally, the vet appeared, his face serious. "Toby's in critical condition," he said. After a while, the veterinarian came back into the room. "We're ready to proceed with the surgery," he said, his tone calm but serious. "However, I need to be honest. Toby is very weak, which makes this more complicated. We'll do all we can, but I can't guarantee the outcome." The girl clenched her fists, her knuckles white, as she gripped the arms of the chair. "You'll save him, won't you?" she asked, her voice breaking. The vet gave a gentle nod. "We'll do everything in our power." As Toby was wheeled away, Keanu rested a reassuring hand on the girl's shoulder. "He's in good hands now," he said softly. "What matters most is that you didn't give up on him." She glanced at him, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. "I just need him to come back home with me. He's all I have left that reminds me of my parents." Keanu hesitated, absorbing the weight of her words. "You've given him a fighting chance," he said firmly. "That takes real strength." The minutes turned into hours as the girl paced anxiously across the small lobby. Keanu sat quietly, offering support through his steady presence. Finally, the vet emerged. "Surgery was successful," he announced, relief evident in his voice. "We removed the blockage from Toby's digestive tract. He'll need rest and close care for the next 24 hours. The girl exhaled deeply, her hands covering her face as tears streamed freely. "Will he be okay?" she asked, her voice trembling. The vet gave an encouraging smile. "We're optimistic about his recovery, but it'll take time and care." Keanu crouched to meet her gaze. "That means he's on his way back home to you." Overcome with gratitude, she hugged him tightly, her actions speaking louder than words. Though the surgery was a success, Toby's journey to recovery remained uncertain, and the days ahead would be critical. Keanu, however, found himself growing more connected to the girl. Helping her was no longer just a kind gesture, it had become deeply personal. That night, sleep eluded her. Even though Toby had made it through the surgery, the lingering uncertainty gnawed at her. Keanu stayed by her side, offering silent reassurance. The following morning, they returned to the clinic, where hope and tension hung in the air. The vet greeted them with a reassuring smile. "Toby's improving," he said. "He's still weak, but there are promising signs. You can visit him, but he'll need plenty of rest." She eagerly followed the vet to a quiet room. Approaching the cage slowly, she hesitated, afraid to disturb him. Toby lay curled on a soft blanket, his eyes half open. He let out a faint, raspy meow as the girl crouched down, reaching her hand inside to gently stroke his head. "Hey, buddy," she whispered, her voice shaky. "You're so strong. I'm here now." Keanu stood silently, watching the tender reunion. This was more than just a moment. It was a lifeline for both of them. Toby can sense the love around him," the vet remarked with a knowing smile. The girl stayed beside Toby for a long time, her quiet words a soothing melody. Keanu observed her with admiration, amazed by her resilience. Despite everything she'd endured, her capacity to love remained unbroken. As they prepared to leave, the vet outlined the next steps. Toby will need medication, a special diet, and a calm space to fully recover, he explained. The girl nodded, but her expression darkened with worry. "I'm not sure my uncle will let me bring him home," she admitted quietly. Keanu frowned, his resolve hardening. "We'll figure something out," he assured her. "You're not in this alone." She looked up at him, her eyes a mixture of gratitude and skepticism. Trust didn't come easily, but Keanu was determined to be someone she could rely on. "We'll take care of Toby together," he promised, "and we'll take care of you too." Though Toby was making progress, the girl's unstable home life introduced new challenges. As the sun set, Keanu left the clinic with her, a plan beginning to form in his mind. He wasn't just fighting for Toby's recovery anymore, he was fighting for hers as well. Toby was finally safe, yet the road ahead was unclear. The girl held a small bag of medicine, her hands trembling as she whispered, "Do you think we can stay together?" Her voice wavered. "My uncle won't let that happen," she added, looking down. Keanu paused, meeting her gaze firmly. "I promise I'll help you and Toby," he said, his tone steady and sincere. "But how?" she asked, biting her lip. "I have nowhere else to go. My uncle only keeps me because he feels obligated." Keanu took a deep breath. "First, let's make sure Toby is okay. After that, we'll find a place where you can be happy." "Trust me," he assured her. He pulled out his phone and made a call. "I know some people who might be able to help," he explained. "They have programs where you can learn to care for animals, just like your mum used to." Her eyes brightened. "Do you think I could be a vet like her?" she asked, hope creeping into her voice. "Absolutely," Keanu replied with a smile. "You just need the opportunity, and we'll make sure you get it." The next day, they picked up Toby and moved into a temporary home, arranged by Keanu's contacts. The cozy little house was a refuge, offering both comfort and safety. As the girl looked around quietly, Toby purred softly in her arms. "I never thought anyone would do this for me," she murmured. Keanu's voice was warm as he said, "You've done more than you know just by being yourself, and you're not alone anymore." For the first time in a long while, she smiled. A shy but genuine smile. Keanu had found them a safe haven, but an unexpected phone call soon threatened to turn everything upside down. For now, though, the girl's days grew brighter as Toby recovered. Their temporary home became a peaceful place where she began to dream again. One day, Keanu found her engrossed in a veterinary book. "Looks like someone has big plans for the future," he teased. She glanced up with a determined look. "I want to be a vet like my mom," she said. "I want to help animals like Toby." Keanu couldn't hide his pride, but knew she needed more than just a safe place to thrive. A few days later, he received promising news from the organization supporting her. They had found a foster family with a deep love for animals who were eager to take her in. And Toby, too. Keanu felt a bittersweet relief, knowing it was the best path forward for her. When they arrived at the new family's home, the girl hesitated before finally saying, "Maybe this is where Toby and I can start over." Keanu smiled gently. "You'll always have me to count on," he reassured her. Months later, Keanu received a letter from the girl. She shared that Toby was thriving and that she was now participating in animal care activities. "Thank you for showing me there's still kindness in this world," she wrote. "You believed in me when no one else did. I'll never forget that." As Keanu folded the letter, his heart swelled with fulfillment. He reflected in his journal, "Sometimes a simple act of kindness can change a life, and in turn, change ours too." If this story touched your heart, we invite you to explore more tales of hope, compassion, and resilience. Tap the screen to continue your journey through inspiring stories.